When it comes to exporting, you have a few different options. Obviously, you will have composed your music, at least to an extent, to synchronize up with the video that you've been working to. Now, exactly how you proceed will depend on what's happening to the music after you've exported it. If it's going somewhere else, for example, if you need to send stereo files to a video editor who's going to go and take them into Final Cut or Premiere or something like that, and then basically perform the synchronization and a final mix on the whole project, that makes your life a little bit easier. So what you can do is, if you set your left and right markers correctly, like this, let's say this is your project. I know this is only a very short example, but these things can get very, very long. I don't really have time to show you exporting a massively long project. The principles are exactly the same. It just takes a lot more time to render out. So, for example, let's say that this is your project here. What I can do, I can make sure that the bits I need are audible. I can just do a quick check. Okay, that's fine. And I can go to File, Export Audio Mixdown. This is how you would export any music from Cubase. Now, normally, what you might do is a simple stereo export. And that will export a copy of the music in a regular stereo format that someone else can just quickly bring into their system and load up against the video file. You would need to make sure that it was at the correct settings, so I want to keep it at 48 kHz sample rate because that's digital video sample rate. I want to keep it at 24-bit because I've been working in 24-bit. Their video software will support that, no problem. I don't particularly want to do any of this stuff over here because that doesn't really apply to working with video. So what I could do is, if I wanted to just output a stereo copy of the file, just output the stereo outs. You can see that's ticked there. And that just basically puts everything through the master channel and creates a copy of that. If, on the other hand, I wanted to export various stems or batches of different audio files, I could do that as well by ticking Channel Batch Export. And then I can choose which files I want to output. So here are my instrument tracks. Play is my piano. There are my drums. This is my synth bass. This here is my atmospheric synth. The audio 1 channel is the channel I imported my loop onto, and the ferry is the program sound. Of course, if you name these tracks more sensibly than I've done, those names are reflected in here as well. So I can tell my system where to output the files to. I want to choose that. So I could say on my desktop, I want to output to a folder called create that. Save that location. My formats look okay. So then I can export my files. This will take a second, not very long because my project here is very small. Okay, so that's done. If I look on my desktop, here is my folder. There are my audio files. Now, with a format like this, the video editor at the other end could submix them. He or she could do a mix of the music however they wanted. What is a good idea as well is, when you are doing that export, if you also choose to export a version of the stereo output. And what that will do is it will make sure that they get like a reference track, which actually they might want to use. They might decide that the mix you've done is perfect and they just want to stick that stereo track in and it's all good. However, if they decide that there's a point at which, for example, the pianos are a bit loud, or they want to keep the cymbals but not the piano, or vice versa, if you give them a copy of everything as well as the stereo output, they'll have a choice then of how to basically sort of recreate that mix in their software. The main thing is to get the left and right locators correct and to get the format correct here. And naming your files properly helps a great deal as well.